So, why did I stream in Japanese and why did I stop? I started because I studied Japanese and I wanted to practice, and ended because of the time zone. The end. Yeah, the video's a little longer than that. This is an embarrassing video to make. A lot of the things I'm going to talk about will be pretty obvious to a lot of people, but I want to make sure I have this history of my life put out there, just in case. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about Japanese streaming culture, so you might learn a thing or two. So in early 2020, I wasn't doing well. I missed out on going to a convention, a friend passed away, I felt isolated, and my job was about to end. Blah blah, pandemic, etc. Like many others, I watched VTubers from Hololive and Ichisanji that year, and it was a lot of fun. I had studied Japanese a lot before then, and just visited Japan in 2019, so I got involved in making translation clips. Sometimes I took out my old art tablet to practice drawing again, and did just a little bit of music. But I saw an increasing number of indie VTubers and always wanted to be one myself. So, I began pre-debut streaming in 2021 and debuted in 2022. Let's back up a bit. So I watched Hololive, I'm a native English speaker, and I study Japanese. So yeah, naturally, I was a fan of Coco. I thought it was really cool that she learned Japanese and worked a lot in both languages. I thought the Japanese origin of VTubers was very interesting, and in the beginning, I really liked the different ways I saw Japanese and English VTubers interact with each other, and I was just beginning to get into streaming. This is what I wanted to do. I'm kind of a goofball, and I annoy everyone with how much I talk. Maybe I can be a VTuber. Maybe I can get into an agency someday like this too. So, let's get going. Unfortunately, I don't live in Japan, and for multiple reasons, I can't move there. Also, I'm kind of a weirdo, with weirdo hobbies. So, if you want to see a train wreck to laugh at, keep watching. In 2022, I made my debut on YouTube and shortly after began streaming in Japanese, and no Japanese viewers came to my stream. Well, it was a saturated market even by that point. And I was afraid to spend so much time speaking English because I needed to kind of force a balance here, so how could I try being a bilingual streamer like Coco, but with my own niche? So at some point shortly after that, I began streaming on Nico Nico. I have some nostalgia for this time period, actually. It was a lot of fun sometimes. Nico Nico has a big history for otaku culture and all that, so I won't explain all that. In the past several years though, its user base is mostly a shadow of its former self. Atmosphere-wise nowadays, it's a bit more lawless, like Kick, but whatever. It seemed like the best way to reliably find Japanese viewers to stream to, starting from absolutely zero. Anyways, throughout 2022, 2023, and some of 2024, I would multi-stream on YouTube, Nico Nico, and sometimes Twitch. Triple streaming. And yeah, there isn't a Japanese viewer base on Twitch, so that really made balancing English and Japanese viewer bases difficult. So I'd go back and forth between streaming on Twitch or not. I also figured English viewers were a bit less picky than Japanese viewers when it came to someone not speaking in their language, which is why I pushed a lot harder in the Japanese direction. But also logically I'm not native, so I figured I always need more practice there. About Nico Nico, while mostly surprisingly well behaved, sometimes there are odd comments I received during my time there. A little rowdier on average, but overall fine. But sometimes I'd get a comment that raised an eyebrow. One that I don't forget is, "Thank you for loving Japan." And in English, not in Japanese. I didn't really know how to respond to this. Like, you're welcome? I just kinda ignored it. Sure, I like Japan, why else am I studying Japanese? But why do I need to be thanked for that? Why is this the first thing you say to a streamer? Is that the first thing that's apparent about me or something? Did I have nothing else to be known for? Maybe. It made me think a lot, but I kept going because I was stubborn and didn't want to admit my goals were stupid. Yes, that was the first thing that was apparent about me, and there really isn't anything I can do about that. In 2024, I started creating video essays, or rather, kaisetsu doga, or explanatory videos, which was basically a genre of Japanese YouTube. A lot of them were narrated with those deformed Toho faces with Microsoft Sam sounding voices. A minority of them are voiced by real people or VTubers. I thought I'd try the latter. Now, I know in English, videos about Japan and stuff like retro technology from Japan do really well on YouTube, so maybe I can do the reverse of this with my unique perspective. After all, I did some searching, and the stuff I wanted to talk about, American game companies of the 2000s and how they relate to Japan, English internet meme culture of the 2000s that uses Japanese-related franchises. This stuff's interesting to me too. Maybe I can find an audience for this in Japan. Ultimately, no. The only video of mine to have any moderate success was the Sonic one, where the title asked, "Why isn't Sonic popular in Japan?" This was more a video about Japan, and also asked them a question. See, rhetorical questions in YouTube titles aren't a common expression in Japanese, according to what I've been told, so this genuinely, unintentionally begged an answer to a question about the target viewer's country. In conclusion, there just isn't a Japanese viewer base on YouTube interested in the kinds of videos I wanted to make. The last-ditch effort I had was to do the Kaigai no Hano thing, another Japanese genre of video that's entirely based on foreigners having wacky reactions to Japanese things, because that's a popular genre there. I did make a video about my experiences and reactions as a foreigner playing Boku no Natsuyasumi, a Japanese game about Japanese summers, and of course I'd compare and contrast my own experience with the summer and mention how there's nothing like otsukai here, where children are sent out alone on errands by their parents. Japan is more walkable compared to the US after all, and I'd mention how there's like no trains or whatever here, but aside from the fact I couldn't think of another video to do in this nature, it didn't really succeed, and I also didn't feel like doing yet another video which was more of just, man, I wish my country had this thing Japan has. Another big issue was something I didn't realize set me way too apart from my inspiration, Coco. I didn't want to teach English. I just didn't want to. But the thing is, as a learner, no matter how good I get at the language, I'm never going to be as entertaining or culturally connected as a native. Heck, I didn't live in Japan, which also doesn't help in that regard. What can I offer my viewers? I never knew how to answer this question. But for Japanese, as a foreigner, there's one very, very valuable thing you can offer. English lessons. And also lessons about overseas culture. More modern stuff, rather than old 90s or 2000s stuff. Okay, 2 more issues left, I promise. First, the time zone was so hard to work around. The other obstacles were very frustrating, but this did not make it easy to keep going without overdoing myself. Summer of 2024, I would just keep waking up at like 5 in the morning to stream in Japanese before work or something, and I'm not a morning person, so I was very sleep deprived and unhealthy the whole time. I tried to do that, and also do very long marathon streams on the weekend, hoping my time block would overlap with viewers somehow. Making friends was nearly impossible. I mean, some people say making friends with Japanese as a foreigner is hard, but I figure this was mostly just because everyone went to bed the minute that I woke up, because of the time zone. I became really isolated. Lastly, one of my regrets from this whole ordeal is that this wasn't actually a good way to practice my Japanese. I mean, aside from playing Japanese games on stream and learning from them. Now, I did learn a lot of things from them, though, like a lot of cultural things, events, foods, concepts. I'm oversimplifying here. I actually did learn a lot of various things. But about the language itself? No. My accent must have been full of mistakes because I would sometimes ask for corrections and nobody would ever mention any. I'd ask for grammatical corrections and stuff. Nothing. I'd ask for the right accent and how you say certain words. Nothing. The only thing I got assistance on was kanji readings. I wanted to improve with more than just kanji. It felt like questions I asked were almost never answered. It was so often I'd ask something, expecting a reply, and nothing. I would check to see if my viewer count dropped to like 0 because that was believable to me, but it wasn't. Sometimes it was between 10 and 20 and still nothing. Was my Japanese actually so bad that my questions were never even conveyed? I didn't consider that at the time, so I was just kind of awkwardly fishing for engagement with my chat. And sometimes even donating gift memberships to my own chat just so I could feel like a more successful VTuber with more members in my chat. As I write this script out, I honestly feel very embarrassed and kind of stupid. In spite of this, I tried still just being a normal game streaming VTuber with occasional karaoke and chatting streams, just with the odd niche of being a Japanese-speaking foreigner. And to be completely fair, I did a little better than I might have made it sound. I eventually hit 1,000 subs on that account, which actually isn't a small deal. I know, you might laugh. Only 1,000, but you really need to understand there is an uncountable amount of Japanese indie VTubers who don't hit this milestone. I'm not going to devalue this. I put a lot of effort in, and it landed somewhere in the upper 50% of like Japanese speaking VTubers. I really did accomplish something, and I don't want to deny that. On the other hand, it felt like I wasn't actually that much of a step up since my chat would often still be very dead. And you know what? I started to feel very bad for neglecting my English viewers. But above all, since 2021 when I first started, within a few years, I just totally lost sight of my goals and the culture changed. VTubers were no longer Japanese only. Heck, Coco graduated that very year. I was hoping to join a Japanese corporation to do wacky skits and stuff with. I felt like a theater kid, never given the opportunity to do theater, and being a VTuber in those big Japanese orgs could give me that. But I think the whole idea of a foreigner joining a Japanese corpo just kind of died with that. I mean, of course, I was probably not making it to Hololive. Though I thought maybe Nichisanji would be the goal for me because there were some other learners or bilinguals in their English branch that did all sorts of things with the main Japanese-speaking branch. But then there was the whole Cellin incident and... Anyways, I even tried looking for very small orgs with this kind of setup, which all expected you to live in Japan. I started to feel like what I was looking up to was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that will never happen to any VTuber ever again. Even if it weren't, getting into such an agency is hard, right? This is a lot of effort for a maybe, and apparently... Did I seriously think an agency would just fly me to Japan a dozen times a year? Obviously they wouldn't. That's expensive and more expensive for them every year due to the weekend. If I can't move to Japan anytime soon for whatever reason, this should have all been foolish from the start. I'd love to move to Japan actually, but for personal reasons I can't for the near future. This has been the case for a while and it will continue to be the case for another few years at least. I like to visit and try to visit once every 2 years. I'll try to visit this year. So now what? Well, early in 2025, I finally realized all this, and nearly 3 years after officially debuting in 2022, I made the executive decision to start over with a new channel, a more English-focused channel. This would be the point at which I start anew with newfound energy, but unfortunately, I totally broke down. I realized I was approaching my 3-year anniversary, and I was still a little in stress mode. I started scrambling, thinking of how to make merch because of 3 years is a lot, right? That means I need to make merch, right? But now, how do I do that with the new channel shift? Do I do Japanese-focused merch or English-focused merch? In Japan, it's not too difficult to set up Pixie Factory with booth or something. In the States, good luck, man. And I couldn't find a method of, like, merch supplying at all. And I was trying to figure this out for 2 regions. I think it was exactly this moment that I just physically collapsed. For the next 5 months, I began experiencing some health issues. First, it was a few months of like gastrointestinal pain, and then it seemed to be getting better, and then a month later, I had a headache for a whole month. At the beginning of this, I had already hit the brakes on my activities for the most part, but I think it was too late. I saw a lot of doctors during this time, and they found nothing at all. Today, I seem to be doing mostly better, I think, but I feel like I don't have the energy for kind of, very focused VTuber activities anymore. I don't know if I can go back to the way it was before, doing stuff like making stream schedules, doing occasional long marathon streams. Kind of feels impossible to work myself up for anymore. It's going to take some time before I really feel like I can give it my all again, if I ever can. I decided to set different standards for myself after all this, like caring less about number goals and just focusing on personal projects. I think that might have made me lazier instead though. I don't know. So, what am I doing right now going into 2026? Well, this is going into more difficult niches for VTubers, but I'm kind of getting into music production and stuff a bit lately. I used to be a musician. I used to do a few concerts, nothing really big, but I've played keyboard, I've played guitar, I've played violin in concerts before. And lately I've been collecting a bunch of older music here lately, and I've been making some older EDM and video game music sounding music. I have no idea where this is going, but in addition to singing covers of and remixes of video game music, I have thought about making music theory or gear related videos where I just talk about what kind of stuff is interesting to me. Or maybe a video about my history with music and why it's been so hard for me to get back into music. If that is interesting to you, please let me know. This video is all over the place, but I just want to make it clear I don't regret everything. I still look back fondly on some of this, and I want to express to my Japanese viewers that support me even today that I appreciate them very much for continuing to do so, even if I've made it difficult. I still like my Japanese followers, and I still like Japan. I think I might be able to go to Japan again this year, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't really know what to do with my Japanese knowledge now. If I had lived in Japan, I think this experiment might have made a bit more sense. But because I don't, this didn't really work out very well for my health, and in some ways, I feel like what I was trying to do might have been a bit misguided. In the end, it's possible the time zone was the only problem, but moving to Japan isn't easy either. There aren't that many options for an office worker like me that wouldn't just make my activities harder. But I digress. Anyways, that's about the end of this video. This is a bit of a downer and I hate that. I want to have more of a bright and funny and comfy environment for everything I do, but I'm a little tired at this point. I don't know if I want to graduate yet though. I feel weird asking for anything like this. It feels like asking for pity, but I guess if you want to see me stick around, please let me know. It would mean a lot to me. I'm not gonna ask for the please subscribe or like or whatever. Forget any of that stuff. I don't care. I hope you all have a wonderful night. Just yeah, thank you so much for watching. See you later. Bye bye.